Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Facebook. Facebook is an American for-profit corporation and an online social media and social networking service based in Menlo Park, California. The Facebook website was launched on February 4, 2004, by Mark Zuckerberg, along with fellow Harvard College students and roommates, Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCollum, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes. The founders had initially limited the website's membership to Harvard students, however, later they expanded it to higher education institutions in the Boston area, the Ivy League schools, and Stanford University. Facebook gradually added support for students at various other universities, and eventually to high school students as well. Since 2006, anyone age 13 and older has been allowed to become a registered user of Facebook, though variations exist in the minimum age requirement, depending on applicable local laws. The Facebook name comes from the Facebook directories often given to United States university students. Facebook may be accessed by a large range of desktops, laptops, tablet computers, and smartphones over the Internet and mobile networks. After registering to use the site, users can create a user profile indicating their name, occupation, schools attended, and so on. Users can add other users as friends, exchange messages, post status updates and digital photos, share digital videos and links, use various software applications, and receive notifications when others update their profiles or make posts. Additionally, users may join common interest user groups organized by workplace, school, hobbies, or other topics, and categorize their friends into lists such as people from work or close friends. In groups, editors can pin posts atop. Additionally, users can complain about or block unpleasant people because of the large volume of data that users submit to the service. Facebook has come under scrutiny for its privacy policies. Facebook makes most of its revenue from advertisements which appear on screen. Facebook, Inc. held its initial public offering in February 2012, and began selling stock to the public 3 months later, reaching an original peak market capitalization of $104 billion. On July 13, 2015, Facebook became the fastest company in the Standard & Poor's 500 index to reach a market cap of $250 billion. Facebook has more than 1.94 billion monthly active users as of March 2017. As of April 2016, Facebook was the most popular social networking site in the world, based on the number of active user accounts. Facebook classifies users from the ages of 13 to 18 as minors and therefore sets their profiles to share content with friends only. 2003-2006, the Facebook, Thiel investment, and name change. Zuckerberg wrote a program called Face Mash on October 28, 2003 while attending Harvard University as a sophomore. According to the Harvard Crimson, the site was comparable to hot and not unused photos compiled from the online Facebooks of 9 houses, placing 2 next to each other at a time, and asking users to choose the hotter person. To accomplish this, Zuckerberg hacked into protected areas of Harvard's computer network and copied private dormitory ID images. Harvard did not have a student Facebook at the time, although individual houses had been issuing their own paper Facebooks since the mid-1980s, and Harvard's longtime freshman yearbook was colloquially referred to as the freshman Facebook. Face Smash attracted 450 visitors and 22,000 photo views in its first 4 hours online. The site was quickly forwarded to several campus group list servers, but was shut down a few days later by the Harvard administration. Zuckerberg faced expulsion and was charged by the administration with breach of security, violating copyrights, and violating individual privacy. Ultimately, the charges were dropped. Zuckerberg expanded on this initial project that semester by creating a social study tool ahead of an art history final exam. He uploaded 500 Augustan images to a website, each of which was featured with a corresponding comments section. He shared the site with his classmates, and people started sharing notes. The following semester, Zuckerberg began writing code for a new website in January 2004. He said that he was inspired by an editorial about the face mask incident in the Harvard Crimson. On February 4, 2004, Zuckerberg launched the Facebook, originally located at thefacebook.com. 6 days after the site launched, Harvard seniors Cameron Winklevoss, Tyler Winklevoss, and Divya Narendra accused Zuckerberg of intentionally misleading them into believing that he would help them build a social network called HarvardConnection.com. They claimed that he was instead using their ideas to build a competing product. The three complained to the Harvard Crimson, and the newspaper began an investigation. They later filed a lawsuit against Zuckerberg, subsequently settling in 2008 for 1.2 million shares. Membership was initially restricted to students of Harvard College. Within the first month, more than half the undergraduates at Harvard were registered on the service. Eduardo Saverin, Dustin Moskovitz, Andrew McCollum, and Chris Hughes joined Zuckerberg to help promote the website. In March 2004, Facebook expanded to the universities of Columbia, Stanford, and Yale. It later opened to all Ivy League colleges, Boston University, New York University, MIT, and gradually most universities in the United States and Canada. In mid-2004, entrepreneur Sean Parker, an informal advisor to Zuckerberg, became the company's president. In June 2004, Facebook moved its operations base to Palo Alto, California. It received its first investment later that month from PayPal co-founder Peter Thiel. In 2005, the company dropped the from its name after purchasing the domain name Facebook.com for $200,000. The domain Facebook.com belonged to About Face Corporation before the purchase. This website last appeared on April 8, 2005, from April 10, 2005 to August 4, 2005. This domain gave a 403 error. In May 2005, Excel Partners invested $12.7 million in Facebook, and Jim Breyer added $1 million of his own money. A high school version of the site was launched in September 2005, which Zuckerberg called the next logical step. Facebook also expanded membership eligibility to employees of several companies, including Apple Inc. and Microsoft. 2006-2012, Public Access, Microsoft Alliance and Rapid Growth. On September 26, 2006, Facebook was opened to everyone at least 13 years old with a valid email address. In late 2007, Facebook had 100,000 business pages. These started as group pages, but a new concept called company pages was planned. Pages began rolling out for businesses in May 2009. On October 24, 2007, Microsoft announced that it had purchased a 1.6% share of Facebook for $240 million, giving Facebook a total implied value of around $15 billion. Microsoft's purchase included rights to place international advertisements on the social networking site. In October 2008, Facebook announced that it would set up its international headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. Almost a year later, in September 2009, Facebook said that it had turned cash flow positive for the first time. A January 2009 Compete.com study ranked Facebook the most used social networking service by worldwide monthly active users. Entertainment Weekly included the site on its end of the decade best of list, saying, "How on earth did we stalk our exes? Remember our co-workers' birthdays, bug our friends, and play a rousing game of Scrabulous before Facebook." Traffic to Facebook increased steadily after 2009. The company announced 500 million users in July 2010. And according to its data, half of the site's membership used Facebook daily for an average of 34 minutes, while 150 million users access the site by mobile. A company representative called the milestone a "quiet revolution." In November 2010, based on Second Market Inc., Facebook's value was $41 billion. The company had slightly surpassed eBay to become the third largest American web company after Google and Amazon.com. In early 2011, Facebook announced plans to move its headquarters to the former Sun Microsystems campus in Menlo Park, California. In March 2011, it was reported that Facebook was removing approximately 20,000 profiles offline every day for violations such as spam, graphic content, and underage use, as part of its efforts to boost cybersecurity. Release of statistics by DoubleClick showed that Facebook reached 1 trillion page views in the month of June 2011, making it the most visited website tracked by DoubleClick. According to a Nielsen Media Research study, released in December 2011, Facebook had become the second most accessed website in the US behind Google. 2012-2013, IPO, lawsuits and one-billionth user. Facebook eventually filed for an initial public offering on February 1, 2012. Facebook held an initial public offering on May 17, 2012, negotiating a share price of $38. The company was valued at $104 billion, the largest valuation to date for a newly listed public company. Facebook began selling stock to the public and trading on the Nasdaq on May 18, 2012. Based on its 2012 income of $5 billion, Facebook joined the Fortune 500 list for the first time in May 2013, ranked in position 462. Facebook filed their S-1 document with the Securities and Exchange Commission on February 1, 2012. The company applied for a $5 billion IPO, one of the biggest offerings in the history of technology. The IPO raised $16 billion, making it the third largest in U.S. history. The shares began trading on May 18. The stock struggled to stay above the IPO price for most of the day, but set a record for the trading volume of an IPO. The first day of trading was marred by technical glitches that prevented orders from going through. Tepid honeymoon of Facebook and Nasdaq does not deliver the Big Bang. Forbes.com. Only the technical problems and artificial support from underwriters prevented the stock price from falling below the IPO price on the day. In March 2012, Facebook announced App Center, a store selling applications that operate via the site. The store was to be available on iPhones, Android devices, and mobile web users. On May 22, 2012, the Yahoo Finance website reported that Facebook's lead underwriters, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs, cut their earnings forecasts for the company in the middle of the IPO process. The stock had begun its freefall by this time, closing at $34.03 on May 21 and $31.00 on May 22. A circuit breaker was used in an attempt to slow down the stock price's decline. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Mary Shapiro and Financial Industry Regulatory Authority Chairman Rick Ketchum called for a review of the circumstances surrounding the IPO. Facebook's IPO was consequently investigated, and was compared to a pump-and-dump scheme. A class action lawsuit was filed in May 2012 because of the trading glitches, which led to botched orders. Lawsuits were filed, alleging that an underwriter for Morgan Stanley selectively revealed adjusted earnings estimates to preferred clients. The other underwriters, Facebook's CEO and board, and Nasdaq also faced litigation after numerous lawsuits were filed, while SEC and FINRA both launched investigations. It was believed that adjustments to earnings estimates were communicated to the underwriters by a Facebook financial officer, who used the information to cash out on their positions while leaving the general public with overpriced shares. By the end of May 2012, Facebook's stock lost over a quarter of its starting value, which led the Wall Street Journal to label the IPO a fiasco. Zuckerberg announced to the media at the start of October 2012 that Facebook had passed the monthly active users mark of 1 billion. The company's data also revealed 600 million mobile users, 219 billion photo uploads, and 140 billion friend connections. 2013 present, site developments, A4, AI and 10th anniversary. On January 15, 2013, Facebook announced Facebook Graph Search, which provides users with a precise answer, rather than a link to an answer, by leveraging the data present on its site. Facebook emphasized that the feature would be privacy-aware, returning only results from content already shared with the user. On April 3, 2013, Facebook unveiled Facebook Home, a user interface layer for Android devices offering greater integration with the site. HTC announced the HTC First, a smartphone with Home preloaded. On April 15, 2013, Facebook announced an alliance across 19 states with the National Association of Attorneys General to provide teenagers and parents with information on tools to manage social networking profiles. On April 19, 2013, Facebook officially modified its logo to remove the faint blue line at the bottom of the F icon. The letter F moved closer to the edge of the box. Following a campaign by 100 advocacy groups, Facebook agreed to update its policy on hate speech. The campaign highlighted content promoting domestic and sexual violence against women, and used over 57,000 tweets and more than 4,900 emails that caused withdrawal of advertising from the site by 15 companies, including Nissan UK, House of Burlesque in Nationwide UK. The social media website initially responded by stating that, while it may be vulgar and offensive, distasteful content on its own does not violate our policies. It decided to take action on May 29, 2013, after it became clear that our systems to identify and remove hate speech have failed to work as effectively as we would like, particularly around issues of gender-based hate. On June 12, 2013, Facebook announced on its newsroom that it was introducing clickable hashtags to help users follow trending discussions, or search what others are talking about on a topic. A July 2013 Wall Street Journal article identified the Facebook IPO as the cause of a change in the U.S. National Economic Statistics, as the local government area of the company's headquarters. San Mateo County, California, became the top wage-earning county in the country after the fourth quarter of 2012. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the average weekly wage in the county was $3,240, 107% higher than the previous year. It noted the wages were the equivalent of $168,000 a year, and more than 50% higher than the next highest county, New York County, at $2,107 a week, or roughly $110,000 a year. Facebook was blocked by the Chinese government in 2009. In September 2013, the South China Morning Post announced that the block would lifted in the Shanghai Free Trade Zone to welcome foreign companies to invest and to let foreigners live and work happily in the free trade zone. However, a few days later, the People's Daily, the official newspaper of the Communist Party of China, dismissed the earlier report, reiterating the block on Facebook. Facebook was announced as a member of the Alliance for Affordable Internet in October 2013, when the A4AI was launched. The A4AI is a coalition of public and private organizations that includes Google, Intel, and Microsoft. Led by Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the A4AI seeks to make Internet access more affordable so that access is broadened in the developing world, where only 31% of people are online. Google will help to decrease Internet access prices so that they fall below the UN Broadband Commission's worldwide target of 5% of monthly income. A Reuters report, published on December 11, 2013, stated that Standard & Poor's announced the placement of Facebook on its S&P 500 index. After the close of trading on December 20, Facebook announced Q4 2013 earnings of $523 million, an increase of $64 million from the previous year, as well as 945 million mobile users. The company celebrated its 10th anniversary during the week of February 3, 2014. In each of the first 3 months of 2014, over 1 billion users logged into their Facebook account on a mobile device. As part of the company's second quarter results, Facebook announced in late July 2014 that mobile accounted for 62% of its advertising revenue, which is an increase of 21% from the previous year. By September 2014, Facebook's market capitalization had risen to over $200 billion. Alongside other American technology figures like Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook, Zuckerberg hosted visiting Chinese politician Liu Wei, known as the Internet Tsar, for his influence in the enforcement of China's online policy, at Facebook's headquarters on December 8, 2014. The meeting occurred after Zuckerberg participated in a Q&A session at Tsinghua University in Beijing, China, on October 23, 2014, where he attempted to converse in Mandarin, although Facebook is banned in China. Zuckerberg is highly regarded among the people, and was at the university to help fuel the nation's burgeoning entrepreneur sector. A book of Chinese President Xi Jinping found on Zuckerberg's office desk attracted a great deal of attention in the media, after the Facebook founder explained to Liu, "I want them, Facebook staff, to understand socialism with Chinese characteristics." As of January 21, 2015, Facebook's algorithm is programmed to filter out false and misleading content, such as fake news stories and hoaxes, and will be supported by users who select the option to flag a story as purposefully fake or deceitful news. According to Reuters, such content is being spread like a wildfire on the social media platform. Facebook maintained that satirical content, intended to be humorous, or content that is clearly labeled as satire, will be taken into account and should not be intercepted. The algorithm, however, has been accused of maintaining a filter bubble, where both material the user disagrees with and posts with a low level of likes will also not be seen. In 2015 November, Zuckerberg prolonged period of paternity leave from 4 weeks to 4 months. On April 12, 2016, Zuckerberg revealed a decade-long plan for Facebook in a keynote address. His speech outlined his vision, which was centered around 3 main pillars: artificial intelligence, increased connectivity around the world, and virtual and augmented reality. In June 2016, Facebook announced Deep Text, a natural language processing AI which will learn user intent and context in 20 languages. In July 2016, a $1 billion lawsuit was filed against the company alleging that it permitted the Hamas group to use it to perform assaults that ended the lives of 4 people. Facebook released the blueprints of Surround 360 camera on GitHub under open-source license. In September 2016, it won an Emmy for its visual animated short, Henry. In October 2016, Facebook announced a fee-based communications tool called Workplace that aims to connect everyone while at work. Users can create profiles, see updates from co-workers on the news feed, stream live video and participate in secure group chats. Facebook annually has an Oculus Connect conference. Following the 2016 presidential election, Facebook announced that it would further combat the spread of fake news by using fact-checkers from sites like factcheck.org and the app, making reporting hoaxes easier through crowdsourcing, and disrupting financial incentives for spammers. On January 17, 2017, Facebook CEO Sheryl Sandberg planning to open Station F, a startup incubator campus in Paris, France. On a 6-monthly cycle, Facebook will work with 10 to 15 data-driven startups in the location to help them develop their businesses. On April 18, 2017, Facebook announced the beta launch of Facebook Spaces at Facebook's annual F8 developer conference in San Francisco. Facebook Spaces, a virtual reality app version of Facebook for the Facebook-owned Oculus VR goggles. In a virtual and shared space, users can access a curated selection of 360-degree photos and videos using their avatar. Users can also access their own photos and videos, and any media shared on their Facebook newsfeed. The beta app is currently available in the Oculus Store. Management. Mark Zuckerberg controlled 28% of Facebook equity in 2012, and controls a majority of voting stock through preferred shares. Key management personnel consist of Chris Cox, Sandberg, and Zuckerberg. Facebook has over 7,000 employees, and offices in 15 countries. Other managers include Chief Financial Officer David Weiner, and Public Relations Head Elliot Schrage. Revenue. Most of Facebook's revenue comes from advertising. Facebook generally has a lower click-through rate for advertisements than most major websites. According to BusinessWeek.com, banner advertisements on Facebook have generally received 1/5 the number of clicks compared to those on the web as a whole, although specific comparisons can reveal a much larger disparity. For example, while Google users click on the first advertisement for search results an average of 8% of the time, Facebook's users click on advertisements an average of 0.04% of the time. Sarah Smith, who was Facebook's online sales operations manager until 2012,
reported that successful advertising campaigns on the site can have click-through rates as low as 0.05% to 0.04%, and that center for ads tend to fall within 2 weeks. The cause of Facebook's low center has been attributed to younger users enabling ad blocking software, and their adeptness at ignoring advertising messages, as well as the site's primary purpose being social communication rather than content viewing. According to digital consultancy Strategy Labs in mid-January 2014, 3 million fewer users aged between 13 and 17 years were present on Facebook's social advertising platform compared to 2011. However, Time writer and reporter Christopher Matthews stated in the wake of the Strategy Labs results, a big part of Facebook's pitch is that it has so much information about its users that it can more effectively target ads to those who will be responsive to the content. If Facebook can prove that theory to be true, then it may not worry so much about losing its cool cachet. Despite Facebook's age demographics, a study has identified 5 distinctive kinds of high LSM Facebook users. The study found that the popular assumption among advertisers that the wealthy aren't engaging with social media platforms was incorrect. For brands or companies to leverage Facebook as an advertising medium to higher LSM users, extensive target market and customer base knowledge is required to execute an effective marketing strategy. A portion of Facebook revenue comes from the firehose access, bulk access to the social media data sold to the third parties. In December 2014, a report from Frank N. McGill and Associates found that the percentage of teens aged 13 to 17 who used Facebook fell to 88% in 2014, down from 94% in 2013 and 95% in 2012. Zuckerberg, alongside other Facebook executives, have questioned the data in such reports, although a former Facebook senior employee has commented, "Mark Zuckerberg is very willing to recognize the strengths in other products and the flaws in Facebook on pages for brands and products." However, some companies have reported center as high as 6.49% for wall posts. A study found that, for video advertisements on Facebook, over 40% of users who viewed the videos viewed the entire video, while the industry average was 25%. For in-banner video ads, the company released its own set of revenue data at the end of January 2014 and claimed revenues of $2.59 billion were generated. For the 3 months ending December 31, 2013, earnings per share were 31 cents. Revenues of $7.87 billion were made for the entirety of 2013, and Facebook's annual profit for 2013 was $1.5 billion. During the same time, independent market research firm eMarketer released data in which Facebook accounted for 5.7% of all global digital ad revenues in 2013. Revenue for the June 2014 quarter rose to $2.68 billion, an increase of 67% over the second quarter of 2013. Mobile advertising revenue accounted for around 62% of advertising revenue, an increase of approximately 41% over the comparable quarter of the previous year. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVD Documentaries. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.